Everybody, Chris and Lumen here. Got a lot of different stuff to talk about tonight. It's gonna be a little bit of like a Sophia open mic night, so to speak, just because there's so much scattered stuff, so many things I've seen today, stuff popping into my head. Very interesting. I'm not exactly sure where to start, but I am noticing things. It was a weird day today. We had the whole weird moon thing last night. One person told me that they felt like we shifted into something, which I mean, I think we're always shifting into something. Um, for me, I had one of, this has happened before where I'm just like, I feel like I lost a day. Like I was absolutely, positively, 100% certain that yesterday was Wednesday, but yet today's Wednesday. I kept checking my phone, making sure it was synced up right. I'm like, is this right? Is this actually, because my kids were here yesterday and they come on Wednesdays. I'm like, how the hell is it Wednesday again today? But it is. It was, I don't know what I guess cognitive dissonance is the right word, not deja vu, cognitive dissonance. I'm just like, this feels like Thursday. What the heck? But, it's only been like 2 days since I got my switch is back in alignment because we had about what 5 days where they were out of whack. We talked about that in the last video, and let me tell you, I mean, I did that video yesterday early, but as the day went on, I was really super aware, like super grateful, like being able to feel it, being able to feel plugged in again, and having that. Maybe that's why it happened. Um, Maybe that's why it happens for everybody. I don't know, but it's like sometimes you just get really used to being plugged into source, being plugged into the Sophia Christ energy, that sometimes you got to like lose it for a minute or have it, dramatically reduced and then get it back so that you recognize like how much it actually does for you. Like it was big. Like I was struggling to do videos. I was struggling to think about stuff to talk about. I just felt bland. I felt normal. And I'm like, ugh, I don't like this. It's like, what's there to do except watch TV? And I kept working at it. And then finally she gave me that instruction about the whole stepping backwards out of yourself, taking a couple steps back, um, away from the world, that we talked about in the last video. And then instantly it was just like, boom, it's back. I feel like my old self again. Wow, that is really crazy because you could just perceive it so much more. So much more. I mean, you get used to it. And then also, like, once it was back on, all of a sudden I had people contacting me, asking me questions about stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is the difference. This is being plugged into that divine source flow, that network. And yeah, there's obviously something in the world that knocks you out of sync with that. But remember, at the highest level, at the Father level, everything below it is by its will. It's orchestrated. That's the thing that we got to remember. It's easy to forget when you're looking at the world and you're like, this world is freaking nuts. I got thoughts about that too, about why things are the way they are right now. But either which way, like things are just, they're getting simpler and making a lot more sense, even if we don't know exactly where it's going, how it's going to go. Something's happening. Something's happening. So, got a lot of different things to talk about in this video. So, if you want to know more, don't go away. All right, let's start off. Let's talk a little bit about some of the contrast that I'm seeing, and we can speculate a little bit about this. Um, because it's interesting. You got to kind of look at one side, and then you got to kind of look at the other. And she's been like dropping little things in my head all day long about, why I'm kept the way that I'm kept. Like, even though I got through my 7 years and all that stuff, it's like she still keeps me pretty much in a box doing this work remotely. I don't go out into the world all that much. It's not because I'm afraid to be around people or anything like that. I understand now it's because the world is just a big interference field. And the more you're playing around in it, the harder it is to hear spirit. So, in order for me to do what I do, I kind of got to stay away from the world, apart from what I monitor, through the internet and things like that. But for the most part, I'm as about as disconnected from the world as is currently possible. But the world is changing, and we don't. It's strange. We've always said before, it's like if you think you know how it's gonna go, it's probably not that. But she can definitely point you in a certain direction, and it might be kind of like that, but it's always going to be a surprise. And I'm starting to, come up with some ideas about why things are the way they are right now. So just as far as contrast, here's some of the craziness that I'm seeing in the world right now. The stuff that's just standing out. Like people in the world, especially people that are glued to the world, are reaching like maximum toxicity right now. The people that are more intuitively pulling away from the world are being drawn more to stuff like this. Like, how can I be more connected to spirit, the Christ Sophia energy? Because that's what we truly are. You're starting to recognize that this world is not for you, not anymore. And I think that's part of why it's meant to continually get worse, because it's that getting worse that is sifting things, sorting people out. They're starting to realize, like, this place is nuts. This is not where I belong. Like, it's just crazy. Just some of the little areas that I'm seeing. Um, People could consider a lot of it political. If you're here, if you've been here for a while, you should be mostly disconnected from that kind of programming, because it's only meant to trigger and divide people. But there are some people that are living it and breathing it. And all the evidence is everywhere if you just look, that the system simply wants to keep you embroiled in the negative. So one example that I've seen popping up all over YouTube is, Matt Walsh put out this movie recently called Am I Racist? And its whole purpose was just kind of exposing the whole DEI agenda, the DEI grift that gets everybody spun up. And I mean, obviously that has not worked out, because everything they pushed that on in the last couple of years, that's where you get the whole phrase "go woke, get woke, go broke." Especially you see that with like movies that Disney produces and things like that. But in this movie, just from what I have heard about it, like he doesn't really do anything. He doesn't preach. He doesn't um, do combative stuff. He pretends to be somebody else, like he's just going to meet with these people and learn things and whatever. But he basically just lets them do their talking, and they pretty much shine a light on themselves, like what this stuff is all about and what it does. And the reaction that the system gives it is, there's this whole big thing right now is, it should be on Rotten Tomatoes, the way things are sitting right now, it should be like at 99% or 100% fresh. but like none of like hardly any of the corporate movie reviewers are even touching it because you're not allowed to mess with this little bit of propaganda. One YouTuber who's like a 10-year long non-political type movie reviewer, no one else was reviewing, so he reviewed it. Now he's getting attacked just because he reviewed this movie, and he's being attacked and called racist and this ists and all these other ists. This is not regular human people. Like this is freaking psychotic behavior. And it's all being amplified. It's all like this is the dude's job is to review movies. But because he reviewed a movie by a guy that the left doesn't like, even though the guy's like really didn't do hardly anything in his movie, just by him doing that now he's being attacked. This is not normal behavior. And this has become way too freaking normal. All this mind control has been put on people to get them at each other and fighting and all this stuff. It's all blowing up. It's all becoming ragingly obvious to anybody that has a semblance of self awareness and connection to their true mind. Everyone's going nuts. Like literally the political stuff is going nuts. It's made to be obvious. This is the higher thing in the game that's making it this way. It's made to be obvious. This is like textbook archon stuff from the Nag Hammadi. You take bad things and tell people that they're good. You take good things and tell people that they're bad. Everything is backwards and upside down. That's why we always say the number one rule that you cannot go wrong with in this place, in this realm, is whatever the side of authority tells you, assume the opposite. So if authority tells you something or someone is bad, it's probably good. If authority tells you someone or something is good, it's probably bad. If they tell you something is healthy, it's probably poison. Everything is like that. The way you can gauge yourself about how awake and aware you are as a soul being within this realm is being honest with yourself about how much do you agree with authority. What do you agree with the news? Do you agree with mainstream media? If you do, you got some issues that you got to sort out. You don't have to take sides. You can know what's right and what's wrong. You can know what's truth and what's lies. Doesn't mean you have to take a side. You don't have to play the game that is in front of you. You don't have to participate in it. I think what the reason it's so crazy right now is so that you're meant to say, this is crazy. I'm taking a step back from this. We're going to come back to that. But also, again, we're in this weird gray area astrologically and things like that. All the big signs that we were given about the doomsday stuff, like they mostly ran out. And once we got to the end of that, which was right around the end of the Olympics, that's when she said, "It's like now it's kind of like now you just don't know. Like there's not going to be an early warning sign when whatever happens happens. Like you got to be alert." So what you should be focusing on right now is getting your mind right and what is important. What are you focused on? Connecting to the light, connecting to uh, the truth of what your soul consciousness comes from. Realizing that everything outside of you is freaking nuts. So that was one thing. The other thing is I keep seeing more and more stuff about the poisonous stuff that they put in us. And then conflict and violence is ramping up. It's ramping up. Like what we have here right now is the textbook frog in the boiling pot of water. It's being cranked up so slowly that no one's, well, I won't say no one, but people just aren't reacting to it the way they should. If you time jumped to now from 10, 15 years ago and looked around, you'd be freaking out. You would think everybody had lost their collective freaking minds. You'd be like, what is going on in 2024? This place is insane. Everyone is insane. You've got part of the population which is living in a world that is dictated to them by the TV, like whatever authority tells them. This is how the world works. This is what is right. This is what is wrong. This is who is good. This is who is bad. They're taking their orders from authority, and they believe it. And they believe it. They believe it so much that they literally cannot see how toxic, aggressive, nasty, and violent they've become, because they think, well, it's everything's right when we do it. It's the other people. It's the other people. They just need to they need to bend the knee and start doing what authority says is the program. They're not going with the program. See, that's what happens toward the end, is the program starts coming apart at the seams. People start to realize that they don't want, people that are waking up starts to realize they don't want violence and fighting and all this weird stuff. Like, let's just take the way we always lived and turn it upside down on its head and make everything freaking weird and creepy. Like, they don't want that. But so it's forcing them to look at the world and be like, this ain't my world. Something's going on here. So political violence is on the rise, and authority is constantly not only pushing people to violence, but authority is doing two major things with every breath they take. They're gaslighting everybody, and they're projecting. They're projecting what they themselves are doing onto their opponents. It's crazy to watch. So that's what we got going on politically. Now, on the world stage, like, there's been all sorts of craziness in the last 24 hours. First, you had this crazy story that just keeps getting bigger, where somehow, and there's something more to this. Keep in mind, whatever authority tells you, it's not that, right? So if they tell you that, oh, we did this, this is how we did it, no, it isn't. We don't know how they did it. But there's this whole big crazy story going on with the whole, Israel's constant conflicts, where they somehow use some kind of technology that targeted all these pagers that Hezbollah was carrying, and they blew them up all at once. And then the next day they start blowing up their freaking walkie-talkies. Like, people that are paying attention are like, do you know how much effort and work that would be? Like, the story there, oh, somehow they got, the suppliers, and they infiltrated suppliers because Hezbollah was ordering a bunch of pagers. And then they secretly installed bombs in the freaking pagers. It's like, no, they're doing something else. They're doing something else. And the reason they're doing something else is, like, yeah, they blow up, go boom, but it's not like plastic explosive go boom. It's things I've seen before in different ways, in which somehow they're doing something that is causing the batteries to go hypercharged or heated up or something. They're both. It's the battery. It's not plastic. If it was just even a tiny bit of plastic explosives, and they were setting those pagers off, they'd be blowing people in half. No, somehow they've got some sort of tech where they're hypercharging the batteries, and it's the batteries that are exploding. And if you've ever seen like a video of like someone's phone going haywire with the charging, like that can be a pretty violent explosion. So that's new. So a lot of people are like, look, if they can do that, then you know that we can do that, which means everyone's basically walking around with a bomb in their pocket that they could just probably set off whenever they wanted to. So that was nuts. And then the other thing that intuitively I saw that felt like it was something bigger, but it's really strange in that although if you search for it, it's a story, but it's like you got to search for it. Like I kept waiting for more details throughout the day. Usually when stuff like this happens, it's just shotgunned at you, but like I had to actually search for it because I feel like there's something happening here that's not exactly what they're telling us. And we're gonna bring this back around to the good stuff. But right now we're like taking the temperature of the world. So the other news story, remember they always call it a news story because it's all freaking stories. Who knows if it's true or not? But the story goes that Ukraine using drones built domestically. And I thought that was freaking hilarious because it's like, why are you all having to like say that? Oh, using these drones that they built domestically, that's code for it was probably our stuff. But they don't want to say that because then Putin would probably nuke our ass. So who has all the drone tech? Who's supplying Ukraine? I mean, it's us. But they're like, oh, apparently the Ukrainians just got together and made themselves a little, drone factory camp or something. They're like, hey, let's build drones. Okay, news, I trust you. But anyway, allegedly, they did a strike on some big munitions depot in Russia. They caused all these secondary explosions. However, when I watched the footage, I'm looking at this footage like, that sure looks an awful lot like something. An awful lot. I've seen a lot of big bomb explosions and things from wars and stuff filmed over the years. This one looks different to me. And maybe that's why A, not hearing as much about it, and B, I'm sitting here like, okay, why am I not where's the response from Putin that I would be expecting to hear? They could be doing some crazy stuff and like we as the peons on the ground aren't really hearing it. So you tell me, here's a little bit of this footage and you tell me, what does this look like to you?
О, смотри, 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 идет сюда. Офигеть, сейчас. Вот, видели эту волну? Просто жесть. А как светло было, вообще капец. Вот, видели эту волну? Просто жесть. А как светло было, вообще капец.
Now, this is just my opinion. It's just my opinion. And people will say, oh, well, the news, stop right there. I don't trust anything out of the news. I'm looking at it, and there's things about this that look very strikingly different from other things. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That looks like one of those tiny little tactical nukes to me, like the little tiny ones. I mean, look at how that thing rolled out. Look at that massive shock wave with the cloud spreading out, like the boom, like it caused, like it went like 2.9 on the Richter scale they recorded. And now there's like 5 mile radius that's burning, and not a whole lot of new information. Why is that relevant? Because if that is what actually happened, then that might be why we haven't heard anything from Putin. And what have we been expecting? What has the remote viewers drawn over and over and over and over again? What were they talking about not a week or two ago? What was Russia warning about not a week or two ago? Now, recently, the remote viewers from Future Forecasting Group had like two back to back hits of things that they drew. One thing that they drew was that weird dude that was involved with the Trump golf course thing. And the other thing that they drew was like a mixed martial arts karate tournament or something. Someone getting like seriously injured in the ring. That happened. Like those two things happen back to back. They're constantly hitting the small stuff. It's just all this other stuff is part of a bigger thing, a much bigger thing. But since they're constantly accurate on stuff, eventually the big things have to happen. The big things have to happen. So let's just say that, theoretically speaking, Putin's over there, and he's not stupid. He knows that wasn't Ukrainians in a freaking garage whipping together drones out of spare parts, and that wasn't like a normal bomb. Like that was a pretty big thing. There's going to be something getting drummed up right now. The world's going to go to hell before this next election. Of that, I am certain. I'm certain. The writing is on the wall. The writing is on the wall. So I'm looking at all these things that I talked about today, and I'm just disgusted with it. I'm like, this place is freaking nuts. But do you know what actually gives me hope and keeps me from getting sucked into it? It's her. It's the stuff that she's got me doing and all the feedback that I keep getting from people. Like she's got me cranking out these pendants here recently, and it's so much easier than before. Because before I was thinking I had to do everything, I had to figure it out intellectually and go through all these steps, but it's so easy now. I just put her into them. And it's like I kind of take my brain out of it. Like I mean, there might be some real basic stuff for certain things, but either which way, it has an overriding program in which Sophia Christ is the one that is making it, attuning these things to the end user without me having to think a whole bunch about it. And some of the stories I keep getting from people, like they're all excited because like big thing, they're noticing big things, big effects, like the way it's affecting the world around them, the people around them, their own energy. And that right there, in addition to what I said earlier about how we had a couple days where we were out of sync. Hopefully you've gotten yourself back in sync. If you haven't, reach out to me and we'll walk you through it. It's pretty freaking simple. But between those things right there, it's like, look, with all the crap in the world, there is another higher energy, another higher consciousness, or a higher spiritual light that is working through us right now, that is making itself, just as all the bad stuff in the world is going up, this good light consciousness is making itself known at the same time. You can't get too wrapped up in what other people are doing, because a large portion of the population that you see in the world are basically what we would call NPCs. They're just part of the world. They're part of the backdrop. Like, they're there to show you something, to figure out stuff about yourself, not to worry about, like, all these people out there are not going to just wake up. They're part of the world. It's about what kind of changes is made inside you and you waking up. That's the thing. And you coming to realize is like, this is not my place. I don't belong here. I think there's something to that. Like, the more people that get to that state of disconnection from the world, that's what's going to shift something. How that happens, I don't know. I only know what's written and what I've been told. Will it actually happen like that? I don't know. But I tend to lean toward it will. I pulled like, as usual, I pulled some cards. Well, I pulled one card before we started. I'm like, what's coming next? Like, what's the thing? And I pulled North Node Life's Purpose, which that card is the woman clothed in the sun and the great red dragon. So, yeah, we've talked about that. Something's going to shift, something's going to change. And the other thing that keeps popping into my head has to do with what she showed me the other day, which is how I got back in tune with Lumen and Sophia. And that's that stepping back out of yourself. So I want to talk a little bit more about that. Now, there's also something, another thing from the Codex, which is like the secret stuff that they put in movies, that she popped into my head, and it kind of feels a little bit like this too. I'll talk about in a minute. But if we go back to the last couple videos when things were weird, because they did something, I don't know what they did. They did something that threw off our spiritual connection, and everybody felt weird. But then she had me basically close my eyes and, in my mind, take like 2 or 3 steps backwards. Like, my body stands still, but the real me takes 2 or 3 steps backwards. Kind of like, if I can find a good clip, I'll put on the screen here. I'll just have to put it in reverse. Like, there's certain Iron Man movies where Tony Stark can just walk up into Iron Man's suit and it closes around him. It's kind of like stepping back out of yourself. It's easier to do than trying to think about going within and what all that means. But take a couple steps back, because your body is part of the world, and your body's senses can only decode the world. So if the world is all screwy and your body is part of the world, then that is going to throw off your perception. So you take a couple steps back, and then you put up like this golden wall of light between you and the world. And then it's like you're isolated from it. And as soon as you isolate yourself from it, you come back into alignment with the light. You know, the few people that tried that noticed a difference right away. I know I did. As soon as I did that, it's like Lumen just like poof right next to me. I'm like, holy crap, you really were. I really was separated from you. it's it's like a mental disconnection slash separation from the world outside of you, so that you can think clearly, so that you can observe what you see, like the stuff I was talking about earlier, you can observe what's happening without becoming involved with it, without making it a part of you. Because now you're observing the world, but you're not of the world because you stepped back out of it. You stepped back out of it. And then what you can do, like there's limitless ways you can do this if you just understand that you're doing mental operations that have actual effects. So once you're stepping back out of it, then you can kind of like push that wall forward to where it is in front of the body and then step back into the body because you have to use it as long as you're here. But it reminded the codex thing that popped into my head is it reminded me a bit of the first Doctor Strange movie when the Ancient One was explaining the mirror dimension to him.
You're advancing quickly with your sorcery skills. You are now inside the mirror dimension. The real world isn't affected by what happens here. We use the mirror dimension to train, surveil, and sometimes to contain threats.
And the thing that stood out to me about that explanation was she talked about it could be used a bunch of different ways, but mostly it could be used to like for him to like practice his magic without causing any kind of repercussions with anything. Um, so it's not affecting the world or whatnot. I'm like, that's another layer of understanding on how we could use this stepping backwards method. If we just think of it that way and it has that context, then you could just picture that in your head. It's really simple. So it's like just go into your mind, close your eyes, do the fourth dimensional grounding, reach down, touch the ground, whatever kind of ground it is, whatever kind of floor it is. Feel it, feel the temperature, feel the texture, feel the air current, see what you hear, see what your body feels. Does it have any smell? Do all that before you open your eyes. That roots you more in the fourth dimension. And then just take 2 or 3 steps back, like you're stepping backwards out of your body. Because, because again, context, because the body is part of the world. To me, this is almost an alternative that might be easier for some people to the inner room. There's always more than one way to skin a cat. And judge things by their fruits. What kind of fruits did we have by this method? We had an instant reconnection to the light. An instant reconnection. Matter of fact, this makes more sense to me than the other method. The other method works, but think about how you think about it. You think about it like you're going back into your mind or you're going back into your head. Okay, what head? The head of the body. What is the body? It's part of the world. Where in this method, we're closing our eyes and stepping out of the body completely. And then what I've played around with is once I've done that, I can then just turn around. And when I turn around, there's like this giant gateway of light and lumen standing there in full glory. I'm like, oh, that's what's behind me. Instead of me looking this way at the butthole of reality, I look back at what's behind me. That's where I came from. It works. It freaking works. But what was I saying about that Doctor Strange thing? But you could do all sorts of stuff if you're doing whatever mental operations you're doing to work on yourself. Um, that way too. Like sort your mind out, clear yourself, do all sorts of things, and then it's easier to work on external things this way, like the body, Like, say you wanted to clear your energy systems and all that stuff. What most people do is they try to do it as they're in their body. Like, oh, I'm putting my hands on my head and I'm clearing it, whatever. But you're in there. But if you take a couple steps backwards mentally, and then you look, and now the body's in front of you, now you are not the body. From the point of observation of consciousness, you are not the body. You can then impose your will on what you do and to clear the body, clear the vessel externally, standing behind it. Once the vessel is clear, then you can step back into it. This seems to work a lot better for me. It seems to make a lot more sense to me. Yeah, like I said, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Some people read stuff that they see in the Bible, the Nag Hammadi, and they think like that's the only way to do it. But there's never only one way to do it. Like there's lots of ways to do it. What ways make the most sense? Does it make sense to you? If it makes sense to you, it works. If you understand the context correctly, it works. It's when you don't understand something and you don't have the correct context that you try things and they don't work. But this makes sense. This is a good, quick way to recenter yourself. And you can probably do this pretty quickly. Close your eyes, take 2 steps back, touch the ground, see what you sense, open your eyes. Now you're standing behind your body. Now you're in the equivalent of, the Doctor Strange mirror dimension. And therefore you can think freely. Because it's like it's only when you step back into yourself, back into your body, that your thoughts and your words project outward into this space and make changes. So if you step back out, you can sort yourself out. Maybe you can clear the body, clear whatever work you did, step back into it. This is a really great idea, method that she taught me. It's simple. It works. The other thing that we did, that we talked about in the last video, to further insulate yourself, is if you're wearing one of the pendants, then you could step back out of yourself in that mental space. Then you can grab your pendant mentally and activate it and use it to infuse yourself with the light, to clear yourself, your true mind, your soul self, before you step back in. Because remember, you do operate in 2 worlds. You operate in the outer and you operate in the inner. That's boilerplate Gnostic stuff right there. But even with all this weird stuff going on in the world that's ugly and it's not fun, it's because you can see where it's going. We know that it's going to get bad. But it's getting bad for a reason. There is a higher purpose to it, a higher point, because it's only when people are pushed to the edge that they wake up, or they change, or they evolve. Some people are just further ahead. And it's going to keep getting bad until people finally get it. But remember, like, this is a virtual world. As immersive as it is, it's not the real world, and this is not the real you. So put all your focus and energy on the light. Put all your focus and energy on where you're going. What happens after this place? In everything that we've shown on here, and what people have said and what people have experienced and stuff, working with our methods, working with our energy tools, working with Sophia and Christ, the true version of them, not the tainted religious version of them. We know they're real. We know it's real. So even in the midst of all this crazy chaos and all this negativity and stuff like that, we still see this energy at work. This energy helping us, clearing us, putting ideas in our head, leading us places, showing us what's us and what's not us. Things are in motion. We don't expect that we will ever fully understand it while we're in here. We do the best that we can, but we can at least intellectually see that things are happening. Everything is happening for a reason. And it's things are, I think stuff just has to get absurd. And we're past that. Things have gotten so, just in a few short years, socially, things have gotten absurd. And a lot of people have to shake off their conditioning that they received from the world and from authority. They have to kind of intellectually remember that they are the frog in the pot of water in which the heat was slowly turned up, so that their normal was slowly changed. But if you go back in time, like 15 years or so, there wasn't a bunch of people acting freaking crazy online. It's like, I identify as a puppy. I poop in a box. Oh, that's freaking insanity. They're driving people to insanity. You don't see any of the people that run the world walking around saying they identify as a dog or a cat. None of them are doing it. No, they're doing it to people. And people are just like, yep, give me some more crazy. You just have to see the program and step out of it. When it gets to be too much and you need a break, try that method. Close your eyes, step 3 steps back outside of your body. Put up a golden light shield. You have now mentally separated yourself from the world. And use that to recenter yourself. Use that to clear yourself. Use that to connect to Sophia Christ. Go into that space. And just trust. Trust that there is a bigger plan in motion and that everything is going to get sorted out eventually. That is inevitable. It can be no other way. We're getting there. So, just going to keep working on that. Okay, that's enough for right now. I know there was some more stuff, but that's all I want to do for right now. I want to get back to work on. I have to make some new things tonight. I still got tons of stuff to post. I've posted like 10 new Luminite pendants on the store so far. Yeah, 2 got bought right away. Then I add some more, but I still got new ones to make and things like that. I'm going to keep putting them up there. If you look at them, go by feeling. I mean, to some degree, some of them are a little more specialized, and we detail what those things are. But trust your inner feeling that will be her over anything else. That's let her guide you to that. And if there's anybody out there that's like on a really, really, really tight budget, like I see people from occasion that, maybe they're older, they're on a fixed income or something like that. Just message me. I'll see what I can work out for you. Because we got a bunch of stuff that I can tune up. It might not be super duper crazy fancy uh, stuff that I would normally put up and sell, but that doesn't make them work any less. So sometimes we can come up with things, or I just listen to her. She'll come up with something for those people that are drawn to it, but it's like, they're just struggling right now. We'll come up with something. If you are somebody that's got stuff off of the Etsy store, this this really gets me in the stomach a lot, but it's like she's the one that determined it, so we leave it there. If you do get something off the Etsy store, make sure you watch your email, whatever email you have connected to Etsy, because at some point, I don't know when it is, it might be pretty quick, But if you order something off there, you should get an email from Etsy, like a thank you email, and it'll have like a 20% off coupon for the next time. That can knock 20% can knock a pretty big chunk off of things. Trust me. I had somebody today buy 2 of the big ones, like the $200 ones, and they had that coupon, and it was like $320. Like, again, those were like the big fancy ones. They're not usually, most of them aren't 200, but some are. Yeah, $80 off. That's a pretty big freaking discount. I'm like, really? 20%? She's like, yep, leave it there. Okay, that's fine. What else? Yeah, if you just want to support the channel in a small way, you can click on Buy Lumina Coffee, become a member there. Leave any questions you have in the comments section below. I feel as though she's got the majority of the people that she wants to talk to in this small little corner of the internet. Like, we're not supposed to get like super duper big with what we do, because we got to be able to talk to people one-on-one as needed. But there's something that I've noticed, and I see it, and that's the feeling that I get, is she's like, there's enough people here. It's like the subscriber count has like pegged out, and then it does this thing where it's like it goes up by 1 or 2, and then you lose 1 or 2. It's like we're at like max capacity for the restaurant or something right now. That means everybody that she wants to be here is here, which is fine. We got plenty of people. So yeah, if you have good experiences with the stuff, share it in the comments. I love hearing the stories. I love hearing the feedback. I love hearing the changes, because it's interesting to me. I don't feel stuff the same way you do, because I'm more the conduit. But it's interesting as things have moved up with her, like how the people out there are actually noticing it. And anything else that you see out there that you want me to take a look at? I don't know. We're in this weird time frame, and there's like, it's like everything is in flux, and there's nothing definite. There's nothing definite, but there are hints. She definitely led me to the future forecasters for a reason. So I think most of that stuff is going to still happen. It's just a matter of when. And if I had to guess, intellectually had to guess, it's going to be before the election in the United States. Almost certainly. Okay. Anyway, all the links are in the description box below. Chris and Lumen. I got all new pictures ready to go. I'm going to get them printed tomorrow, so look a little bit different behind me. These are the ones that I chose. So I got one for Sophia, got the one I picked out for Lumen, and then putting Christ in there too. So that's where we're going to switch everything around too. All right, that's all we got for right now. Chris and Lumen. See you next time.